Chapter 42. I left the house and zipped into the bathroom like my life depended on it. The relief! I then decided I needed a bath in Lang Lang oil, giving me a chance to relax, as it always did, and of course, to dream of Marcos. What is he getting up to in LA? I already missed him. I've been missing him since I fell asleep last night. After soaking myself to a prune, I lathered my skin in moisturizer and squeezed myself into some elegant black silk trousers. I was going all black tonight. I wore these trousers with a chic black chiffon blouse, complemented with some towering black Louboutin pumps. I gazed at myself in the bathroom mirror. Looking good, girl. About time. I blotted some crimson lipstick over my big old lips, but something was still missing. I had an impulsive thought. Oh, go on, Bonnie. I decided I was going to don those bossy Cartier emerald and diamond earrings. They were to die for, and I couldn't resist. Suddenly, my gold iPhone buzzed on the marble counter. It kept buzzing. Oh, not a message. Marcos was calling. My breath stung in my chest for a quick second as I quickly slid my finger over the screen. Hello, I purred quietly, smiling like a retard. Hello, Bonnet. Marcos's drooling voice melted through the receiver. Oh, God. I felt my pulse thump on both sides of my neck. That voice, it did shit to me. Hello, Marcos. How are you? Fine. He paused. How are you? I'm fine, I murmured quietly. What are you up to this evening? I'm meeting a friend for dinner at 7. San Ysidro Ranch. Do you know Dale Franks? Dale Franks? Marcos exclaimed with slight surprise. I snickered to myself. Are you surprised? No, he replied. You Aussies stick together. I chuckled. I miss you. Silence. I miss you too. What are you doing? I wondered. Waiting for you to send me a picture wearing those diamonds naked? I burst out laughing. Marcos, you blow my mind. I could sense his smile through the phone. I think I do a lot more than that. Baby, more than you know. We both took a deep breath and listened to the silence of our racing thoughts. Thank you so much for those, I said. Oh my gosh, I love them. When are you coming home? Sunday, Marcos said. I've got to meet the Chinese Minister of Transportation tomorrow. He flies into LA tonight. I'll be in LA tomorrow, buying my dress. Thought you might come down here to get your pretty little dress. Well, you're the master of body language, I grinned. You know these things. The air was getting thick. I'm the master of many things. My mind flashed back, Marcos thrusting himself inside of me as I died in ecstasy. I murmured quietly. That you are. Another silence. Can I see you tomorrow down there? I asked hopefully. Probably not, he sighed. I won't be able to get away. It's a big day. Oh, I understand completely, I said, hardly expecting him to fit me into his super crazy schedule. Have a good evening with Dale. Tell her I said hi. I smiled. I will. More silence. I know your secrets, Bonnet, he murmured quietly. I gasped, closing my eyes. I could feel my heart gushing. Good night, Marcos. Good evening to you, my lady. The phone went dead, and I quickly ran to my closet, pulling out that red Cartier box. I opened it under the bright bathroom lights and was greeted with a million strobes of sparkling magnificence. Oh my God, I whispered, bathing in their gleaming brilliance. I couldn't believe these were mine. I quickly stripped off naked and delicately clasped those encrusted jewels around my neck and through my ears. I glanced at myself in the mirror. My face lit up like a disco ball, the diamonds wildly dancing every time I moved. I was blinded. I suddenly felt like $1 million. Heck, I was probably now worth that also. Oh my God. Goddamn Bonnie DeHaro. I hastily lay on my bed in very provocative positions and started snapping selfies. I sent the jammiest one to Marcos. I was sure he'd love it. Knowing full well that I was running out of time, I quickly redressed and carefully removed that delicate necklace, placing it back in its box. My gold iPhone immediately buzzed. Text message. My tongue is going to take you to other worlds when I see you. Gasped. My insides fluttered excitedly. He really liked the pic. Smiling mischievously, I texted back. It already has, baby. Another buzz a few seconds later. You haven't had anything yet. I bit my bottom lip and closed my blushing eyes. I was sure of his words. Another thing I was sure of is if I didn't get on birth control, I'd probably get pollinated. Chapter 43. I glanced at the clock. 6:36 p.m. Move your ass, Bonnie. I grabbed my purse and flew out the door, clutching my Louboutins. They wouldn't survive the Almeida garden paths, and frankly, neither would I, had I worn them. I drove out those massive gates, dusk almost completely invaded by the violet of night, and sped off down the mountain, quickly getting lost in Friday night traffic in Montecito. Right on 7 p.m., I arrived at the front of San Ysidro Ranch and gave the valet my keys. I walked into the Stonehouse restaurant, loving the warm, subdued ambience about it. Ah, great choice, Dale. Good evening, ma'am. The host smiled at me. Good evening, I answered. Reservation for Frank's. Certainly, ma'am. Right this way. It didn't take me long to spot the fabulous Dale Franks being seated within the outdoor dining area. I glimpsed her flawless strand of South Sea pearls a mile away. Nestled over a gorgeous silk forest green blouse with matching trousers, she was exquisite. Oh, Bonnie, darling, she grinned delightfully, quickly standing to her feet, kissing my cheeks. Oh, you're stunning. Thank you, Dale, as are you. You look absolutely gorgeous. I replied, sitting down. I hope I didn't keep you. Oh, darling, I just arrived, she insisted. Although only just. My dogs weren't having any of it. A waiter came and gave us the menus. I think I have to meet these dogs of yours, I laughed. I'll have the Penfolds Cab Sauv. Dale glanced at the courteous-looking waiter. I smiled at him. I'll have one of those too, thank you. So, tell me, Miss Bonnie, Dale began curiously, what is a young Aussie stunner like you doing in Santa Barbara? Well, I work as an assistant for the Almeida family. Dale's eyebrows immediately pricked up. Really? She exclaimed. Are we talking about Marcos Almeida here? We are. I nodded, my heart dripping like honey, just hearing her say his name. Oh, I see, Dale murmured with intrigue. Well, I can imagine a family like that would be keeping you on your toes. Ah, absolutely, I sighed. I mean, at least April does. Ha, I bet, she laughed, taking a sip of her wine. Cheers, darling. We clanked our glasses over the precarious candlelight. Marcos, by the way, says hi to you, I muttered cheekily. Oh, does he just? Dale cried with pleasant surprise. Charming man he is. Charming man he is indeed, I smirked, sipping my wine. You couldn't even guess the half of it, Dale. Dale smiled as those mysterious blue eyes of hers hovered through the flames at me. And so what about you? I asked curiously. Well, naturally you know I'm Australian. My late husband Jeff and I moved over here years ago, and I've been here ever since. Ah, yes. Dale was indeed from the Franks family. It was common knowledge that Jeff Franks was the other half of the family empire, running part of the business from America until he passed several years ago. Life is lovely here. I love Santa Barbara, I said, glancing up at the fairy lights over the veranda. I just wish I found it sooner. Oh yes, life is great here, darling, but you'll have to watch the crowd at times, Dale warned, scanning the food menu. Oh, I learned that very quickly, I insisted. Better for you then, darling. Chapter 44. We ordered our dinner and enjoyed the moments that our new friendship was beckoning. And honestly speaking, Dale felt more like an old friend that I hadn't seen in years. I loved this lady. Her magnetic presence made her easy to love. So, I take it you're not married? Dale asked flatly. No pun intended, but Dale was a very frank woman. And I guess she's had to be in a town like this. No, I snickered. I wouldn't dream of it. God, what a headache. Not if you found the right one. I have found the right one. In this day and age, I detested. My Alaskan halibut, along with Dale's steak, finally arriving on the table. To find the right one, you have to find a good one first. Dale giggled. Well, good luck, darling. Not many of those left. I couldn't agree more, I smirked, bubbling with amusement. God, if only this woman knew. I had to change the subject. How's your steak? I asked, putting a piece of succulent halibut into my mouth. Delicious, she answered, chewing carefully. And yours? Oh, amazing, I grinned, flaking off another piece and mixing it with my garden salad. Are you going to Brianna Bersergio's party tomorrow night? Oh, darling, I was invited, but I already have my friends Jack and Lindsay over for dinner, she said, glancing at me. So you know Brianna, do you? I dropped Marcus's son at Laguna Blanca, I said. I met her down there. She invited me to the party, but she also invited Marcus and April. Well, that may be a little awkward. Dale furrowed a brow, appearing bemused. Going to a party that your boss is also invited to. Well, it's not happening now, I insisted quickly. I mean, I'm going, but April and Marcus aren't. Dale must have been one of those mastermind readers, or was it that obvious? Those cerulean eyes gave me a sharp, penetrative glance. What happened, Bonnie? I sighed, leaning back on the chair. I had already decided I wasn't going because of their initial invite. But I told April that Brianna had invited me anyway, and she didn't like it. Not one bit. Told me that I was the help and that I needed to remember my place in the world. Oh dear, Dale frowned, listening carefully. Well, that's very telling of her. And then Marcus lost his shit at her, and I mean completely lost his shit. I shook my head, peering down at my half-eaten dinner, remembering the fiasco. Dale, it was horrendous. We sat in silence for a few moments. Anyway, I sighed sharply. April apologized this morning and insisted I go. Dale's gaze never once left my face as she studied me. You always have to tread a thin line with these big families, Bonnie, she articulated. Oh, Christ, don't I know it, I muttered, sipping some water. But I do love working for them. I mean, April has her moments, and my head is done in most of the time. But Marcos, my voice trailed off as my glassy eyes observed the other guests eating around us, feeling myself succumb to his fresh memory. Marcus is a spectacular man, I uttered quickly, snapping myself back to reality and piling my fork with more food. I felt Dale's eyes drilling into my face, watching me very carefully. Putting the food into my mouth, Dale sat there contemplating, giving me a long gaze with those piercing blue eyes, like she'd been around the block more than a few times. They glinted within the golden flames licking around the candle as she took a sip of her wine. Marcos is a bit of a hot commodity around town, she said matter-of-factly. Oh no, here we go. I inhaled deeply, politely listening on. I mean, let's face it, he's exceptionally good-looking, she surmised, and on top of that, very powerful and supremely wealthy. I can assure you he is a hell of a lot more than that. So you can imagine how these well-to-do women around town feel about him. Oh, really? I spoke, pretending I didn't know what she was talking about. Oh, yes. Bad luck for them. Well, that explains why April is such a jealous bitch then, I sneered, raising my glass of wine to my lips. Dale smiled with a slow nod. It's a dog-eat-dog world, darling. Get used to it. All I wanted to do was to scream to Dale how much I loved this man, and I was dying to share it with her. But I knew for my sake, and for Marcos's, I had to keep my mouth shut. Good. And someone like Dale was dangerous, because I felt like I could tell her anything, and God forbid, I'd hate for anything to slip out of my mouth unintentionally. Darling, your earrings are exquisite, by the way, she admired politely. Thank you, I smiled. I'm loving your pearls. Dale flashed me a mysterious smile and took a sip from her wine. I got home by 10:30 p.m. and had never felt so bloated. My fruit diet had been squeaky clean for so long that I felt like I overdid it. The oil, the spices, too much. I peered down at my protruding belly. Oh, God, shameful. I pulled my gold iPhone from my purse, which, by the way, had remained painfully silent throughout the whole evening. Marcos, where are you? I felt a lonely agony crawl over my skin, feeling desperate to lay in his strong, warm arms again. Removing those expensive earrings, I carefully placed them back in their box and decided I needed another bath. I put on a Hotel Costes album, lit a bunch of candles, and lay there in that warm, oily water, running through tomorrow's plan and dealing with my bloated belly. I had to be back by 4:30 p.m. since I was booked in at the hair salon at the Biltmore. I hadn't had my hair done at any salon for ages, and tomorrow night I needed to look on point. It's just a shame that Marcus wouldn't be seeing me. Chapter 45. I woke up, got dressed, and left the house by 8:30 a.m. I couldn't wait to go down to LA. Woman was on a mission. And it would take me a good 2 hours to get there. Granted, the traffic was friendly. I ended up taking the back way, down the 101, and then cross onto the 405. And of course, throughout the journey, I was never short of things to think about. Marcos and more Marcos. My body was starting to pack up since it hadn't had its Almeida fix for several days. I get it now. After one has experienced sex like that, if they're ever lucky to get the chance, it's hard to forget about. It's like the body has been imprinted or conditioned, and it knows what it wants, what it likes, what it needs, and thus the bar is set. But the downside? Anything less than that is a waste of time. And my body was growing impatient for its fix again, and only Marcos was the one that could satiate it, the only one I wanted to satiate it. He was the quintessential lover. I cruised into Beverly Hills around 11 a.m., heading straight down Camden Drive, and managed to get a park at the Wells Fargo building. And not wasting any time, I went straight to work with finding that dress. As much as I loved the end result of finding the ultimate dress, I honestly found shopping one of the most exhausting things to do. And so quite simply, I don't fuck about. I get in and get out. There are others, however, like April, for example, shop all day. I don't know how she does it, but she does, and does it easily, especially with a free pass directly into Marcos's jammy bank account. I reiterate, the bitch can spend. After a couple of hours stretching my tethers along Rodeo, I was finally sold on a beautiful Chloe frock. It was stunning. A white, floor-length dress of delicate silk chiffon. Sleeveless, plunging V neckline, totally perfect for diamonds and emeralds. I also managed to find a gorgeous pair of silver Manolo Blahnik stilettos that would accessorize the dress beautifully. I glanced at the clock on my car dash, 1:30 p.m. I was starving and on my way to make a quick dash into Whole Foods before I drove back to Montecito. Suddenly, my purse buzzed at the traffic lights. I quickly rummaged through my handbag and saw that it was the gold iPhone. Heart palpitations. Marcos. Thank God. Relief washed over me as I anxiously read the message. Where are you? Patiently wrote back. I'm almost at Whole Foods. Where are you? I waited for him to reply like my life depended on it, holding that cell phone in my hand as I turned the wheel into the undercover car park. No parks, damn it. I circled around 3 times until I finally got a park, all the while still waiting and waiting and waiting for Marcos to reply to my message. I jumped when the phone buzzed. Wait in the car park. My heart screamed, no, he's coming here? I nervously stood at the front entrance of Whole Foods until a few minutes later, I glimpsed a sleek, black-on-black, tinted-out Bentley coupe slowly roll into the park. I felt my stomach tighten, knowing that Marcos had well and truly seen me, like a lurking black panther, creeping quietly toward a deer in the woods. The Bentley pulled up, which was immediately followed by a blacked-out Lincoln SUV right behind it. Without being able to see anyone or anything inside the Bentley, I walked over to the passenger door and opened it. The gush of Marcos's scent hit me hard, and I was met with the most beautiful face I know staring back at me. Those dark, mysterious eyes hurting my heart. My breath was sharply caught in the air as I got in and closed the door, feeling my hands tremble in my lap. I swear this man stole my heart over and over again. Without a single word spoken, he immediately leaned his arm over my shoulder and stroked the side of my neck with his soft, warm hand, gazing into my eyes for a long, quiet moment. No chat, no facial expression, just his slow, deep breath, giving me a sense of peace and stillness. Marcos was the ultimate eye of a hurricane. Just when I thought I couldn't wait a second longer, he clutched my face with his left hand and kissed me deeply, thrusting that warm, passionate tongue into my mouth. I felt my blood burn through my veins, throbbing against my skull. Dying, dying, dying. Again and again and again. My lady, he finally whispered, pulling his face barely an inch away from mine. I've missed you. Oh, I've missed you. I ran my thumb over his jaw, feeling the tears well in my eyes. I couldn't help it. I was so in love with this man. He squeezed my face tenderly. Did you find your dress? Yes, I said with a small grin. I think you'll like it. He smiled softly as I ran my fingers over those gorgeous dimples. I have to go, he muttered quietly. Oh no. Right now? I gasped, unable to hide my disappointment. Yeah, I'm on my way back to the office after having lunch with this Chinese minister. I need to sign some documents there in a few hours. The Lincoln behind us flashed its lights. I eyeballed it over the back seat. Assholes! Grabbing my face in his strong hands, Marcus plunged his mouth against mine, tenderly rubbing those velvet lips all over it one last time. See you soon, he murmured, giving me a fragile parting kiss. Okay, I nodded reluctantly, staring at that impossibly stunning face. I was dying to tell him that I loved him. It was on the tip of my tongue. Don't do it, Bonnie. Grudgingly, I stepped out of that Bentley and watched it slowly roll around the loop of the car park and back onto the busy street, quietly followed by that black Lincoln SUV. Sighing deeply, I dragged myself inside Whole Foods to find something to feed my growling stomach.